Okay, so BIE3006, so overview of property development. There's not many slides, so don't worry. We'll probably finish before 12. Okay, so what is property and or land development? We will be talking about that and decision making in land development project, as well as key principles to be considered, and also a little bonus on risks. Okay, knowledge and risks. So basically, development or land development is defined as a process of transforming raw land to a more appropriate productive use, such as agriculture, etc. Wherever you read on the definition of property development or real estate development or land development, they'll pretty much give you the same definition, which is a raw land, turning it into something that's useful. Okay, and we have seen this. I mean, you are in the age where property development is thriving, and there are many examples of property development that has succeeded as well as failed. Okay, so being wherever you are now, it's good also to observe what kind of developments are around your city or your area. Okay, so remember I told you in urban planning classes that when you start with urban planning, then we will talk about these, etc. And then when you go to urban planning practice, then you'll be doing some practical thing. And then now it's actually to prepare you for property development. And the difference with property development is that your financial analysis will be much more in detail and much more scrutinized, okay, in a way, because you will be doing a feasibility study that is very much in detail. Okay, there is also an appraisal part of real estate development or property development or land development. All right. So land development can also involve changing an existing use. Okay, this is where redevelopment comes into place. So it's not just about having a raw land and developing it into something that's useful or profitable or of value of the humans around the area or civilizations, etc. But it's also involves when you want to change a certain site into something else. Okay. I think I've mentioned this before, like in Petaling Jaya, they're doing this. They're doing redevelopment at a bigger scale because they're redeveloping the commercial area of Petaling Jaya, and they're actually changing industrial sites or industrial use of industrial development in Petaling Jaya into a commercial development because there has been changes of trends and also changes of use, changes of things how we value of the city, etc., etc. Okay, so basically it involves two things, right? So it involves firstly raw land changing into something that's useful, and also changing the existing use into something else, or what we call as redevelopment. Okay. So generally, land development is what we understood as a process of creating a built environment to provide society with a space for its activities. The thing with property development, oh wait, I hear a ding dong, hold on. Shira Kamal. Okay. The thing with property development is it seems practical. Okay, I mean practical in the sense of if you want to be a developer, you have to be with a developer in order to understand the whole crooks and tricks of property development. And you're right, street smart makes a good developer actually. But book smart plus street smart makes super smart in property development. So in this course, you will learn the theories and models behind property development as a part of the practical things that you see, okay, outside. Okay, so it's always a misconception that property development can be learned from books, which is not entirely true because books help as well as street credits also helps. Okay, so if you have that mindset that property development is what you see and that's that, it's not. Okay, there are also other models and processes and theories that what makes a development great, and those practicality of property development only or most probably focuses only on profits and monetary gains. Okay, so big difference. Remember, urban planners plan for the people and developers plan for money, for profit. Okay, so in this course, you have to have that mindset of, to get rid of that misconception. Okay, so which I understand, but you will be reading a lot of articles in this subject. Okay, so anyways, so Litchfield in 1996 said, for example, claim that land development takes place when open land, which is principally being used for agriculture, and then converted into something else. This is really common, right? You see a lot of agricultural land being converted into residential, etc. And it's not the developer's fault as well. It's actually they have to follow who? They have to follow local plans. A residential project. Yes. Okay. Okay. And it can also occur when the existing land development needs to be replaced. So, it becomes a redevelopment site. We rarely hear of this redevelopment because Malaysia is currently still in the development stage of the country. So, oh yeah, but only small projects laku, I guess, like Petaling Jaya. Okay. So Millington also argued that land development takes place in order to meet the needs and demands of society. This is very true because trends keeps on changing, like futsal courts. I mean, back in the 90s, early 20s, okay, futsal courts are like everywhere. But nowadays, futsal courts are very difficult to find, or there's not a lot of people who like to invest in it anymore. Okay, um, practically because I don't know, people see different generation gives different lifestyle, right? So basically you need to develop in order to meet the needs and demands of the society. So the main purpose are to fulfill their basic requirements for shelter and the provision of building to live, and also to conduct recreational, leisure, cultural, economic, and social activities. Remember we talked about, I keep on saying remember because we were in this class together, right? In urban planning practice. I can't be sure if you remember or not, but please remember that we have said that when planners plan for the people and developers focus on profit, there needs to be a balance between the two, because if you give a land, obviously for economic value or monetary financial value, etc., a developer would maximize it as much as he or she can in order to gain more money. But in life, we need something that is that balances our physical health, mental health, and spiritual health. Okay, so that's why planners has to be that check and balance, and developer has to follow whatever the planner plans. So, and hence why recreational, leisure, and cultural, economic, and social activities are important also. And I'm not saying this to all developers. There are also responsible developers who consider this, okay? For instance, your group went to Eco Ardens, right? So, like, the Eco Ardens concept was very much a community-based layout, right? So Eco World has a few projects like Eco Meadows in Simpang Empat Penang, Eco Majestic, I think. There's so many Eco, okay? But their projects are very well, it's expensive, yeah, okay, profit gain. But they also encapsulate this leisure, cultural, recreational in their residential development, as opposed to developer who has a piece of land and then just built 6 semi-Ds on that small land and nothing else. Okay, for instance, like in BIE, okay, there is such developers as well. So Yeah. Okay. So Healy in 1998 argued that land development activity is a fundamental dimension to both urban capacity and also urban quality. But of course, you can see the perspective of land development in many ways. You see in the perspective of the developer, in the perspective of consumer or a resident or a person. You can see in the perspective of how it enhance the urban area. Okay, for instance, like building the Petronas Twin Towers. Okay, what kind of value do we get from that? And it has so many multiple outliers of overspilled benefit from the Petronas Twin Tower, because it has become a tourist attraction, and you bring in tourists, okay, and then it's also an office, it's also a mall, so there's like a that balance, and finding this balance is not that it's not easy, and that's why there's many opportunities in land development. Okay, Healy 1998. You guys were like one, or you guys were just born?
Not born yet.
Okay, anyway, so in practice, many authors argued that land is developed. Not born yet. Oh, okay, not born yet also. Ya Allah, rasanya tua. Okay, anyways, in practice, many authors argued that land is developed to satisfy the express needs of society, sustaining the environment, promoting social accessibility, and cultural value. So you see, all these authors argue in a sense of land development should be based on all this. Okay, you don't see any financial gain, you don't see any profit, increased profit, etc. It's always about satisfying the needs of the society, sustaining the environment, promoting social accessibility, and also cultural value. Now, when you promote social accessibility, it helps to build the community. When you build the community will be able to live economically sound. Okay, they have good economy, so you'll see less homeless people, you see people working, people have jobs, etc. And it needs to have that cultural value. Why is cultural value so important? Because it gives you a sense of identity. Okay, without cultural value, you are sort of lost. Okay, so this is not really like a very nice example, but I'm going to give you an example like the United States of America. Like in the US, their cultural value is like nada, which is nothing. Okay, and that's why they pin through the Native Americans culture embedded in the Americans' life. But yeah. But okay, cultural value is like another lecture of itself. But yeah, but basically cultural value gives you that sense of identity. But obviously the Americans, find a way to have their own identity. Sorry, hold on. Hello? Hello? Ya, saya tak gelas. Sorry. Okay. You know that we are back in campus, right? We are back in campus. You guys are still at home. I wish I'm at home, but yeah, I'm in my office now. And if you were in my previous classes, you would know that my kids are always, disturbing me. But now they're in school, and I thought when I'm in UM, then I won't have that disturbance anymore. But yeah, it sort of follows me. So I'm sorry. Okay, so basically, let's go back. What is land development? All those authors argued this 4 things. Okay, satisfy the needs of society, sustaining the environment. Okay, sustaining environment is where you hear a lot of sustainability, etc. Okay, promoting social accessibility, so housing affordability, and also value is an identity to the land or urban area. Now, decision making in land development project, you need to know all this. You need to obtain the significant knowledge. Okay, like you need to know who owns the land. Okay, in Malaysia you can own land. Okay, so you need to know who owns the land. You need to know property economics and market cycles and the market condition. Okay, this is where your expertise comes from. Financial circumstances and taxation, also your expertise. You should know all this. The prevailing and expected risks in development context, and development context. The available project management techniques and processes. Project management are always, not always, but majority are from QS, but also from architects as well. The legal and administrative procedure appropriate to the development and locality. This should also be your forte, because if you are in real estate or anything to do with land, a lot of people expect you to know every single clauses and sections in the NLC, etc. Okay, construction technology. This is also very important because it has changes in the last few years. Like now they're using like this Lego bricks, okay, to, what is it called? G bricks. Okay, so you use the Lego brick thing, and they're also 3D printing. 3D printing materials. There are also building blocks, like the Syrian Tower was built very fast because they use block instead of, you build small bricks, and you use like big blocks to build that tower. And then beam. Okay, beam is also big now in construction technology. It's not new, but it's gaining traction. Okay, it's gaining traction. So these are the things that you should know as well. And most importantly, you need to know the taste and behavioral lifestyles of people as well. Okay, if you build like things that people don't like, then people are not going to use it and utilize it, and one day it's going to be abandoned, and that's not going to be great. Okay, so there are key principles to be considered as well, like the expected expected return or income on the capital invested, and then the development activity itself will link to financial investment strategies, and in general you have to take into consideration the people's spending, saving patterns, etc., and you have to tailor it back to the development. Now, what I need to emphasize is on the financial strategies. Okay, property development involves a lot of capital and a lot of money. So there are many ways. Either you as a developer partners with, find a partner that has a lot of money that can give you very good cash flow, or you have to have good relationship with banks to get loans, those bridging loans. Okay, and yeah, you really need to have good financial portfolio, I would say, a good financial profile. Okay, so there are knowledge and risk factors as well, and it requires the management of specific inputs such as finance, labor, technology, materials, and everything that has to be put together and to produce that development output. So, development has many scale. It could be like a small scale, which is a small scale is like you have a 10,000 square feet land and to build a 2-story bungalow. That's actually a development as well, but it's like a super small scale. Okay, but you have mega scale development, like if you're going to build a metropolis. Okay, that's another type of development. Okay, so the end product of the property development is then considered to be unique, both in terms of physical characteristic and its location. Okay. Yeah, I think developments do have good uniques. Like the development in Icon City, which I think is from Masing, did not get good rep because there was a lot of defects in terms of design. So that's why property development makes you super rich, but you need to have a very good team, I guess, and a very good eye on what makes a good property development that could really express the social values and cultural values, etc., back to the society. Okay. So as a conclusion, property development is not just a simple process of translating demand into supply at a given time and place. So it's not just about economists saying, okay, this is what you need. You know, we are heading to this, so this is what you should focus on. It's not just about that. It involves a lot of roles in the national economy as well, because it does represent as an important sector of macroeconomy. Okay, so macroeconomy, you know, do you remember what macroeconomy is? You know, macroeconomy is like the bigger picture where you calculate your GDP, etc. Right? Microeconomy is us, we people, how we spend, how we save, etc. So property development gives you that big role in terms of a macroeconomy activities in the national economy. Okay, so that's why development, real estate development or property development or development in general is very much looked upon by the government, because it involves a significant role basically. So it's not just a simple process like the demand and supply thing, but you have other factors to factor in order to be successful in land development. And that's about it. Okay. Oh, I made it. I told you guys it's going to be less. It's going to be a very short one. It's going to be before 12 and it's 11:43. Do you have any questions though?
No attendance.
No. Okay. Oh, yelah, attendance. Ada. Okay, lepas saya buat attendance, nanti you guys sign spectrum. Yeah.
What is the difference of property development compared to the urban planning before?
You mean as subject ke? Subject ke? Subject wise?
Maybe the contents.
The contents of the subject ke contents in the terms of the sector of urban planning dengan property development?
The subject.
Oh, subject. Okay. The difference is that the evolution there in terms of your curriculum is that when you're in your first year, you learn urban planning and it's very theoretical, and you are exposed to all the development plans in Malaysia, which are local plan, structure plan, special area plan, as well as national physical plan. But in urban planning practice, the second year, you are exposed to guidelines, right? Guidelines, like how do you plan a land, and you do site investigation, etc. And then you'll have a piece of land which you proposed, etc. Right? But you do a tiny bit of feasibility study, right? A very tiny bit. And then in property development, you have to use whatever information set or whatever knowledge that you have acquired during these two subjects for this subject, because this subject is going to talk in detail in terms of we're going to talk about concepts, we're going to talk about redevelopment, we will talk about state authorities, guidelines, etc. And we'll talk about policies as well on what affects your development. And the financial appraisal. So you have to do a development appraisal as well. So the only difference that I think probably is on the development appraisal side for property development. You pretty much have covered what you need to know, like guideline wise, you know where to find, what is the guideline in order for you to propose such property, etc. on that piece of land, which is you have covered that in urban planning practice. But in property development, there are additional of development appraisal, of which you have to do a very detailed feasibility study, and you have to decide whether the development that you are proposing is of the best potential. So you'll be using the Habu, people call it the Habu method, but which is the highest and best used of that particular land. So in this subject, it's more about how you evaluate your proposed development is the best. Okay, as compared to urban planning practice where you just plan and then we only give you marks on whether you understand, you have to follow certain guidelines, etc., for the components of the development that you are proposing. Okay, so big difference will be in terms of having that evaluation of whether that development you're proposing is the best use in property development. Because you ada that development appraisal punya element. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Doctor.
Adakah yang menjawab soalan?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, okay. So next week punya assignment brief, it's going to be pretty much the same, which is you need to find a vacant land, then you have to propose, and then you have to do a development appraisal, which is feasibility studies, etc., and to decide whether it's going to give you a good IRR return or it's going to be, a good project to do, taking into consideration the pandemic situation, etc. Okay. So, yeah. So, ada soalan lain? Is there any questions? Tak ada? Okay. If there's no question, I'm gonna close the class early. Because it's the first day, so kita macam manja-manja kita, okay? So, if there's I'm gonna see you guys again next week on Wednesday, and we'll be talking about, I think, property development issues, okay? So, look for your tutorial tomorrow on Spectrum, and make sure you do your tutorials as well, because remember what I said in the beginning of the lecture, this class is going to encapsulate both book smart punya perspective and street smart you'll get probably when you start working next year. Or is it this year? Next year, okay? All right, so if there's no questions, thank you everyone for joining me today for BIE 3006. Take care and I'll see you guys